Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining the stream. I guess I'm online now. So once again, thank you very much. This is our traditional, at this point, Sunday live stream. I did prepare a short summary of the news about major topics. Of course, it's Ukraine and Middle East. This time, de-escalation in the Middle East, because last few days we did see ceasefire. It's temporary, although, but let's hope ceasefire will hold and sides will manage to find the ground to not escalate further. And of course, questions and answers. We can have a discussion about any topic you like, dear friends. I will just ask you to write your questions, if you have one, in the capital letters, so that I will manage to see it straight away, or at least try. Zarael is here. Hello, Levan. Hello, Zarael. Thank you very much for participating in the stream. Thank you all. I see John, veteran of our community, is here. Hello, everyone, dear friends. Hello, everyone. And well, let's begin. Flick is here also. So let's begin. At this point, I do not see no questions. And dear friends, may I should say now, or maybe a little later, that if any of you want your questions to be read or comment, or just to make sure that I would not miss it, you can use donation alert and buy me coffee. You can write comment on through one of these platforms, and I will constantly check each of them. And if I see any question or comment, I will of course read it. For now, I want to thank Crustle Full Cloud 9 for donation during the previous stream. I guess this donation came after stream ended, so I was unable to read the comment. So thank you very much. And yes, I guess we are online now. Oh, I can see a question straight away. Zarael is asking, Levan, how long do you think Russia is going to condone this whole mess? Well, that's a question, isn't it? My understanding is that in 2024, Ukrainian conflict will end. I expect this winter some decisive actions from Russian side, and we are close to that point, because my understanding is, and I did try to explain my reading of big picture quite a few times during even live stream and also in updates. My understanding is that Russian major plan for Russian defense ministry and Russian general staff is to use current line of contact to demilitarize Ukrainian armed forces, to basically force Ukrainian units to consider stopping fighting, stop hostilities, and I guess we are approaching now a point when more and more Ukrainian officers, which is very important, not just soldiers but also officers, are realizing that there is no objective reason to continue this fighting. Information is spreading among Ukrainian military personnel, and I guess once General Staff of Russia will decide based on its intelligence and other means, I don't know how they are making their decisions, once they will be sure that large-scale offensive operations, decisive movements will not cause significant opposition from Ukrainian side, which will of course decrease casualty numbers and decrease damage that will be done on the line of contact. At that point, probably we will see large-scale Russian offensive operations, and it will happen this winter. It must happen this winter. We all on the daily basis are receiving news that more and more Ukrainian units are surrendering. There are chaotic situation among Ukrainian military personnel. Entire brigades now, by the way, are blaming each other and calling each other cowards and so on. So I guess Ukrainian army truly is on breaking point, and give it a couple of more months, and I guess we will see large-scale decisive Russian operations all along the front line. And that after that, I guess some sort of negotiations will take place, or capitulation, basically, from Kyiv, and then Moscow and major capitals worldwide will probably decide fate of Ukraine. My understanding is that majority of Ukraine will become under Russian control, and the western regions under control of NATO member states. But there is still slight chance, 1%, even if that Kyiv and surrounding regions may remain as a landlocked quasi-state under the name of Ukraine. But when it comes to all this story of Ukrainian crisis and military operation, I believe 2024 will be decisive year. I know Western media outlets and Western politicians are pushing this narrative that this conflict will be prolonged for years, if not decades, but I don't see it. I don't see it. I guess in 2024, Russian side will achieve decisive victory over the Western ruling elites. That's how I see it. Let's find some questions. Question, Levan, is it a possibility you can find the relative of the victims of the Odessa massacre? Belikov Dmitry is writing. Theoretically, it's possible. I mean, you need, I guess, you need a Russian language platform for this to ask relatives to, get in contact with. I have an English language platform, and 98% of our community is from outside of Russia. So it's gonna be a little difficult for me, but theoretically it's possible to find at least relatives that are living in Russia. When it comes to Ukraine, that's a whole different story, because even close relatives are, by the way, afraid to talk to each other because of this constant surveillance. And if Ukrainian citizen says something critical during talking with its Russian relatives on the phone, I guess it will not take long before Ukraine's security services will begin making some problems for those people. So, but it's a possibility. Of course, I believe people that were killed by Ukrainian Nazis in Odessa had relatives in Russia, of course. Let's see questions. Yet again, dear friends, thank you very much for finding time to join our stream, our conversation. I guess this segment, weekly, Sunday live stream is good for our community, good for a project. We can have a chat in real time and talk about any topic we like. So I can see a question. Evgeny Andrews asking, who is Anatoly Shary and what is his position? Well, Anatoly Shary is a Ukrainian journalist, Ukrainian blogger, also a politician, by the way. He's a founder of one of the Ukrainian parties, which is the which is banned in Ukraine by Zelensky's regime. He was in opposition of previous president, and he is in opposition of current president. He is very critical of Kyiv regime for many reasons. No way he is pro-Russian. Kyiv regime is trying to perceive him as a pro-Russian journalist, blogger, or politician. But if you take a look at his Telegram page, for example, you will definitely don't think that he is anyway close to be pro-Russian. But he is a critical of Kyiv regime, and so much so that he has many enemies in Ukraine. And just a few weeks ago, there was attempt to assassinate him and his family in Spain, by the way. He lives in Spain with his family, and Ukrainian drug cartel, which is associated, has ties with the presidential office in Ukraine, they did try to kill him. They threatened him before that they will burn down his house and they will kill him and his family, and they did try. They throw 5 or 6 Molotov cocktails to his home at night, by the way, yet again in Spain. And it's just a miracle that they did manage to survive. And after that incident, by the way, after that attempt to assassinate Shari and members of his family, Hispanic media, as I understand, did begin quite openly criticize Kyiv regime, and began talk about possible connections of Kyiv regime with this attempt to assassinate Shari, and ties of Kyiv regime with that drug cartel that operates in Ukraine and somewhat in Russia also. According to Shari, by the way, he was conducting investigation. This cartel is called Informal or something like that. And well, Shari was conducting investigation about this topic, and they did try to kill him. And this is not the first time, by the way. There was an attempt to assassinate him from directly or indirectly from Kyiv regime. And well, I hope I did answer to your questions. When it comes to his positions, he is a pro-Ukrainian. He was for at least before special military operation began, he was for peace talks between Kyiv and Donbass. He was for peaceful solutions. He was for protection of Russian language, Russian speaker citizens of Ukraine. So he had some adequate stance at the time before special military operation began. But lately, I mean, he talks some extreme. How should I say? I mean, I do time to time monitor his Telegram page, and sometimes he does write some quite extreme stuff, really, and I don't understand why. Because after all, he is not just a blogger, by the way, but he is a public figure. He is a politician, and me personally, I expect from politician a little bit different level of behavior. If he was just a blogger, a citizen journalist, okay, I mean, you can get emotional and say some crap time to time, because nobody's perfect after all. Everybody does makes mistakes, but public figures, they supposed to have a much more breaks, let's say. They should always constantly be aware that any word from them can be interpreted in many ways by public, because you are a public figure. I am critical of him, but in comparison to Zelensky and his associates, by the way, Shari is I mean, you cannot compare them. Even though I am critical of Shari, at least I would not call him a criminal, because I don't think he is a criminal. I may disagree with some of his positions or all of his positions, but I have no reason to believe that he was involved in any ways in some criminal activity or crimes that Kyiv regime committed. When Zelensky and his associates are totally different story. Let's continue. Milutin, a Mimic, is asking, is Kosovo Serbia? Is Odessa Russia? Kosovo is Serbia. I believe Serbia never recognized Kosovo as an independent state, and I guess will not recognize, at least until sides will reach agreement on, let's say, confederation, which is possibly one way to go to deal with that issue. Serbia can possibly theoretically recognize independence of Kosovo if Kosovo will agree to join confederation with Serbia, in terms that no one side will, or both sides will sign moratorium, that they will not leave confederation at least for 15 to 25 years, let's see. I have a similar approach when it comes to conflict zones in Georgia, for example, between Georgia, Ossetia, South Ossetia, and Abkhazia. I see confederation as one of the ways to resolve some very difficult issues. Although I'm not that well informed when it comes to situation in Kosovo. What will they even consider confederation with Serbia? And I don't know public opinion in Serbia about possibility that some type of confederation can be built. Although confederation itself is a quite working system, because after all, let's take a look at Switzerland. By the way, Switzerland is confederation, isn't it? And it does quite well, really, or used to do quite well before current leadership began destroying reputation of Switzerland worldwide, reputation as a neutral state. And Odessa, now Odessa is Ukraine. It's a Russian city, undoubtedly. I will say Russian Jewish city, because it does has a unique Jewish heritage. And that's uniqueness of special uniqueness of Odessa. It's a part of history, Russian history, by the way. And I believe once this conflict will end, Odessa will return to Russia. I have no doubts about it, by the way. At least entire southeast part of this failed state under the name of Ukraine will definitely become under full Russian control, from Kharkov region to Odessa region. It's undoubtedly, to me, it's done. It's only matter of time when this will become reality. And as I said, I see only slight chance that Kyiv and surrounding regions will remain as a somewhat independent or quasi-independent state, let's say, under the name of Ukraine. And western regions of Ukraine will definitely become a part of Hungary, Poland, and Romania, maybe Slovakia. If Slovakia and Hungary will resolve some issues, which one will control which parts of neighboring territories of Western Ukraine, because as I understand, both sides have claims on in some areas on same territory. But they will deal with this issue, I'm quite sure. I hope I did answer to question. But Kosovo is definitely Serbia, by the way. Russia never recognized Kosovo as an independent state, so from Russian perspective, Kosovo is part of Serbia. Question. James Silver is asking, hi LG. LG was my call sign, by the way, when I was working in news agencies in Georgia. It was a specific of news agencies that we did not sign with our names. We were signing our initials, and my initials are LG, and everybody knew me as a LG. not as Levan Gudadze, and I was witnessing quite a few times when different media outlets were calling to our news agency, and they were asking news from LG, and I was right next to it, and they had no idea that it was my news that they were asking for, news that I prepare. Well, let's go back to question. Could you make a video interview on the reality of the WHO and why destroy the MH17? Why or who destroyed MH17? Interview with to talk about these topics. It's two different topics, and right now I'm trying to think with whom can be done interview to discuss these topics. I remind you, dear friends, that our community is quite tiny, small, and it's kind of difficult to me to conduct these interviews, because not everyone is very keen to appeal before a tiny community like ours. But I'm trying, and I hope in the beginning of December I will have an interview also on the channel. I would not say with whom, but I'm working on it. And well, theoretically, I would be glad to have an interview on these topics, but I need to think about with whom, because to receive, I mean, good enough information, you need someone who knows very well these topics. So I will think about it. I will definitely think about it, and let me check. So, Bertram, thank you very much for your support, for your donation. Comment is thanks for your information and great guests like Duran and Matt. Thank you very much, Bertram. Thank you for your attention and support. I will definitely try to continue work on segment of interviews, and hopefully it will work out. Let me also check mail. Dear friends, continue. So, dear friends, I remind you, if I may, that I know not everyone likes this when I do it, but if you want to make sure. After all, by the way, this project is totally independent, and I have no other option other than rely on support of our community. And if you want your question to be not, if you want me to see 100% your question, you can, or commentary, you can send a question through donation alert or through Buy Me a Coffee. During the live stream, I will read comments and questions on both platforms, by the way. I will constantly check. And let's continue now with the questions. Z12IT is asking, hello dear friend, good afternoon. A question: I saw that it was formed the first battalion with Ukrainian soldiers who did swear allegiance to Russia to fight for anti-Nazi Ukraine. Yes, this is true. And dear friend, it's not just one unit at this point. There are more units, and just recently, one of the units that were entirely formed from former Ukrainian soldiers who decided to fight against Kyiv regime. Those units did conducted offensive operation in one of the sectors of the front line, and they did capture foreign mercenaries. among them, 2 mercenaries were Georgian descent. They were from Georgia, so former Ukrainian soldiers, not just creating military units and not just working in the rear, in logistics and so on, but they are also participating in the combat operations on the front line. So yes, this is absolutely true. So James Silver is asking, hi LG, where do you see the hotspot areas of the future, and how will Europe mind the relations with Russia? That's well, that's quite difficult question to wrap mind around. My understanding is that Western ruling class, one way or another, will try to provoke regional conflict in the Middle East to distract shipping in the Persian Gulf and cut off China from energy sources of the region. The Middle East is constantly under risk of being provoked into regional confrontation. That's how difficult situation is in that region for forever, by the way. I mean, just take a look at history. And also, I'm afraid Southern Caucasus region is a possible future hotspot. If Armenian leadership were thinking that if they will get rid of Nagorno-Karabakh, they will manage to sign peace agreement and then and conduct delimitation and demarcation of the border with Azerbaijan, and they will, in a fast way, move towards joining EU and NATO. They were very much mistaken, and their Western masters, I mean current leadership of Armenia, their Western masters were also mistaken, because it's already clear now that some preparations have begun for further escalation between Azerbaijan and Armenia, which may devastate the entire region, by the way. And all regional countries, one way or another, may get involved in that confrontation. I remind you, dear friends, that EU and NATO member states are now actively working in Armenia to push Russia out of there. And unfortunately, my understanding is that it's only a matter of time when Armenia will demand Russian bases to be withdrawn from Armenia. Then Armenia will probably leave CSTO organization, which is military organization that was created by former Soviet Union republics, some of them. Armenia probably will conduct some other steps to escalate with Russia, maybe even denounce pact with Russia about military support of each other if any of the countries are under threat or under direct attack, or maybe Moscow will be forced to denounce that agreement with Armenia. From Pashinyan's government, anything is possible, unfortunately. And just recently, Pashinyan himself was talking about that Azerbaijan is preparing some ground for further escalation, because Azerbaijani media, some media outlets in Azerbaijan, some politicians began calling Armenia as West Azerbaijan. And this is definitely not random development. I'm quite sure Baku and Ankara, that are, close partners, probably are working on the plans to conduct some military operations and to establish a land bridge between Nakhichevan, Autonomous Republic of Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan proper. At this point, Nakhichevan Autonomous Republic is a kind of landlocked between Turkey, Armenia, and Iran, and has no direct route with Azerbaijan. And Baku is quite keen to establish this land bridge with Nakhichevan. So Southern Caucasus region is a very difficult region, and possibly future hotspot. I'm afraid Pashinyan's government is so destructive, and Pashinyan himself and their Western masters, that they may even destabilize some Tchejawaheti region of Georgia, and one way or another provoke confrontation with Georgia. That's unfortunately also risk that I see, and I guess Georgian government is working on possible risks when it comes to this scenario. So yes, Southern Caucasus region is the next hotspot. Unfortunately, I think Central Asia, by the way, is also possible hotspot, especially republics that are bordering China, because my understanding is that Western ruling elites will try to destabilize Central Asian republics, former republics of former Soviet Union, and they will try to use territories of those republics as a bridgehead kind of, or trampoline to infiltrate northern western parts of China, where Muslim communities live compactly, Uyghurs and some other ethnic and religious minorities. And well, this way West will probably try to destabilize at least these northern western parts of China. And I remind you, dear friends, that this world famous one road one belt initiative goes through those regions also. So I'm afraid Central Asia is also under risk to be destabilized by some forces that are operating under orders of Western ruling class. And unfortunately, by the way, Turkey is being used by Washington and London, especially in the Central Asia republics, because with the exception of Tajikistan, all other republics, by the way, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, they are Turkic-speaking republics. Tajikistan is different. They are Iranic. They are speaking language of Iranian language family. So unfortunately, Turkey being used by Western ruling elites in this regard quite actively. And yes, Central Asia is one more hotspot. And of course, we cannot go around the situation in South China Sea and Taiwan, by the way, also. I'm afraid Washington and London or let's say ruling class of the West, in this attempt to hold on to power, to hold on to influence worldwide, they will probably try to provoke some escalation in the Pacific region also. So that's major hotspots as I understand. At this point, there may be some changes in Latin America also, especially after what we see in Argentina, by the way, when this very strange individual become a president. I don't know, maybe Washington will try to establish these puppet governments in every Latin American state, or at least in major ones, and Brazil is under serious threat in this regard. Not just Brazil, but Brazil also, because it's a major economy in the region. But well, I don't think it will go down to military confrontation in that area of this world. But in the Pacific region, Central Asia, Southern Caucasus, and Middle East definitely are under risk of military escalations, I'm afraid. I hope I did answer to your question. Z12 IT is asking, do you think that those units will grow? Undoubtedly. I'm quite sure more units already are prepared, and it's only announcement left. and Russian side will probably announce about this bigger units on scale of brigade, maybe even division, when time is right. Now we are just seeing first steps in this direction. And dear friends, what if I will share with you some news that I did prepare, some short news summary, and then we can continue conversation in real time, or we should just continue this dialogue now. What do you think? This is our program, by the way. This is just, you know, it all depends on us. This is our live stream. So question. So it's moving too fast, or question. Venture Dent is asking, under Putin leadership of G20, how will their outcome be for the global south? Well, I guess global south will do okay with or without leadership of Putin. It's just inevitable process of history, and that's why Western ruling class is so keen to bring some destruction to that region. But Putin, by the way, like it or not, but he did prove that he's a strategic player. He's a geopolitical chess player, by the way, because we are now seeing on the world stage events that was predicted by Putin like decades ago. He was talking about global south and multipolar world and so on for decades now. So under leadership of Putin and under leadership of other leaders of BRICS countries, let's say, global south definitely, and multipolar world definitely has a bright future. Only question is, will BRICS nations and nations in the global south manage to neutralize all the threats and provocations that coming from Western ruling class? Because it's not gonna be easy. We are seeing almost on weekly basis some accidents, maritime accidents between Chinese Navy and, let's say, Navy of Philippines, sometimes even Vietnam. They are very difficult situation there, and hopefully Moscow and other capitals will play a crucial role to make sure that regional countries will manage to resolve the issues peacefully without allowing ruling class of the West to provoke something bigger than just like a small scale maritime accidents. I remind you, dear friends, that in 20th century, last time China fought a war was with Vietnam. It did, and that war did not end well for China, but it did happen. It did happen, and I'm afraid there was different circumstances, of course, different times, undoubtedly. But I'm afraid these tensions between the nations in the south may be and will be used by a ruling class of the West to provoke some disturbances in the region. So that's the main danger that I see. But when it comes to Putin himself, he did prove already that well, his vision for world is correct. As I understand, multipolar world is a future, and hopefully it's gonna be much more peaceful and just than under domination of Western ruling class. And you know, but global south is a future engine of world's economy and world's development, undoubtedly. For last 3 to 5 centuries, it was a Western world, isn't it, that was playing this role of dominant force and engine for this world. But situation is changing, and this role is step by step is returning to South, which was, by the way, leader of the world in medieval times. And after all, by the way, after all, India, China, they are one of the oldest civilizations in this world, and there was definitely times when these nations were leading world humanity towards, leading humanity forward. Let's continue. But when it comes to G20, we should remember that G20 means also Western, collective West states, and they will use this platform G20 for destruction. So I have no hopes on G20, by the way. I have no hopes on any organization that includes, that has influence or are under influence one way or another of Western ruling class. So I don't see G20 as a serious organization. Like G7 is nothing, by the way. G7 is a destructive force, and I'm afraid G20 will become the same. It will not be able to achieve anything, really. Exactly because of this destructive role of Western ruling class. But I have high hopes for BRICS. I definitely have high hopes for BRICS. Let's continue with questions. Question: Jesus Aguilar is asking, is there an update on Russia's plan to have a war crimes trial? Will the scope of protection go international, such as enables of the Zelensky regime? Well, dear friends, in Donbas region, there are trials taking place constantly, and Ukrainian military personnel that was found guilty in war crimes, they are prosecuted, and they are receiving sentences. This is a constant stuff, by the way. It happens always. But when it comes to general trial of Kyiv regime, and when like trial in Hague, if you want to compare to Hague trial, when Nazi German leadership was prosecuted. Well, Moscow did have such plans and do have such plans, I believe. And well, after this conflict will end, then probably we will see developments in this direction. But at this point, as I understand, Russian law enforcement agencies are constantly working to fixate crimes that are committed by Kyiv regime. And when time is right, I believe we will see trial of Kyiv regime from 2014 until modern times. Because investigative committee of Russian Federation is working, by the way. They have thousands and thousands of documented cases of crimes of Kyiv regime. Question: is there? I did answer on that. Francis Sanchez is asking, how about speaking with Vanessa Bailey on or Richard Mathurst? Oh, great idea, great idea. I will try, dear friends. I will definitely try. I'm now working on interview with one expert, and after that I will definitely try to contact them, and hopefully they will agree to participate in the interview. Question. I did answer on this topic of so, dear friends, what you will say if I will share with you some short news summary, news update about latest news that was reported by Russian media, and then we can continue. So let me first check donation alerts. So, end mail. Okay. Так, now we can go to new summary. So let's talk about news now. I did prepare several news. So first of all, report of Russian Defense Ministry, by the way, about previous 24 hour, and RIA Novosti did report about this briefing of Russian Defense Ministry, and according to Russian military, in Kupiansk and Krasnoliman direction, Ukrainian forces lost about 80 military personnel during the previous 24 hours. Also, in Donetsk direction, Ukrainian forces did try to conduct 3 local-scale counteroffensives. They failed, and during the previous 24 hours, as a result of local-scale clashes, Ukrainian side lost about 200 military personnel. Zaporozhye sector is usually quiet for last quite several weeks, and according to Russian Defense Ministry, during the previous 24 hours, Ukrainian forces lost about 35 military personnel in Zaporozhye sector of the front line. I guess it's a Rabotina area, by the way, and just before live stream began, I did share this video, by the way, on my Telegram, where yet another armored group of Ukrainian forces have been neutralized by Russian side, exactly in Rabotina area. So even though overall intensity of battles in Orekhov bridgehead and in Zaporozhye sector of the front line are decreasing for quite some time now, there still are attempts from Ukrainian side to conduct some local scale offensives. Also, RIA Novosti reporting about situation on South Donetsk direction, where Ukrainian forces lost about 80 military personnel during the previous 24 hours. And what is also interesting, by the way, and in Kherson region, according to Russian Defense Ministry, Ukrainian side lost 55 military personnel. Activity is decreasing. Activity is somewhat decreasing in Kherson direction, also because I guess if not Kyiv regime, if not Zelensky and his associates, at least some officers on the ground in Kherson region did beginning to realize that they are entering trap by crossing Dnieper towards left bank, and maybe that did play some role. Maybe because Russian side did introduce new type of drones with night vision equipment, and they are beginning to strike Ukrainian units day and night, 24 hours a day, which does makes even more desperate situation of Ukrainian units on the left bank. Maybe some other reasons also, but intensity of battles definitely are decreasing in the Kherson direction. Also, and dear friends, Russian Defense Ministry did report today afternoon that during the previous 24 hours, Russian air defense systems did manage to shut down 2 Su-27 fighter interceptors of Ukrainian armed forces in Kherson direction, and also one MiG-29 fighter jet in Dnipropetrovsk region. So this is yet another 3 planes that was destroyed from Ukrainian Air Force. I wonder how many planes they have left, really, man. I don't know. Probably all of you have questions from where these planes are coming from, especially last, I don't know, last, let's say 30-40 days. There are constant reports about destruction of Ukrainian airfields, Ukrainian planes, helicopters, and so on. And well, I truly wonder how many planes did Ukraine had before special military operation began? 1,000 or what? From where these planes are coming from, man? But that's a report of Russian Defense Ministry, so that Ukraine's Air Force has less fighter jets now. And 3 fighter jets is quite a number to be lost in just 24 hours. Let's continue now, and I did choose this information, dear friends, to share with you. RIA Novosti report about comments that Peskov made about statements of Ukrainian officials, in this case head of Ukraine's Rada, which is Ukrainian parliament, who said that there are no Russian speakers in Ukraine and there are no issue of Russian language or Russian speakers, and there are no Russian ethnicities, ethnic minority in Ukraine also. Pure Nazi statement, crazy statement from I mean, we get used to craziness of Kyiv regime, but to come out with these kind of statements that there are no Russian language issue in Ukraine and there are no Russian speakers among citizens of Ukraine, and there are no Russian ethnic minority in Ukraine. That's something, I don't know, man. That's a new level of degradation of Kyiv regime, undoubtedly. And Peskov said that these statements of head of Ukraine's Rada exactly the reason, or one of the major reasons, why Russia began its special military operation. To protect civilians, to protect Russian speakers that were under attack of neo-Nazi regime in Kyiv. And it's true, by the way. They are openly saying that there are no Russian speakers in Ukraine. Really? Unbelievable, man. But I don't know if Western media will ever report about such statements of high-ranking officials of Ukraine. I don't know. And dear friends, this is also interesting that mayor of Lvov city, which is located in the western Ukraine, and I remind you, dear friends, that Lvov before Second World War was a part of Poland. So mayor of this city, Andrei Sadovoy, did call Polish government to take actions against Polish truckers that are blocking border checkpoints between Poland and Ukraine. Well, and he did spoke some crap also. It was kind of, they were asking and same time demanding and threatening. I mean, this is crazy, man. These people are definitely losing understanding of who they are and where their place is. And well, when it comes to this issue of border crossings, just 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, Ukrainian media outlets were reporting that Kyiv regime already lost about $500 million, according to the estimates, as a result of this blockade, partial blockade that Polish truckers are conducting. And well, I don't think Polish government will do anything, because at this point, main task for Warsaw, as I understand, is to prepare its military, to prepare informational field, and to prepare society for inevitable incursion in western Ukraine to establish control over the territories that belonged to Poland before Second World War. That's the main task at this point for Warsaw, I believe, and I don't think they care that much what Ukrainian officials have to say about Poland, about Polish truckers, farmers, or just about anything. And let's continue. TASS News Agency also report, by the way, that Business Insider did publish article about Western main battle tanks that was sent to Kyiv regime, and Business Insider sadly admitting that despite deliveries of this Western-made MBTs to Kyiv regime, they didn't change much on the front line or anything at all, which is correct, which is absolutely correct, by the way. I find it interesting that it took so long for Business Insider to realize that German Leopards or British Challenger tanks, Challenger 2 tanks, or US Abrams tanks will change nothing in Ukrainian battlefield, and it was known even before NATO member states began deliveries of these tanks. It was known for a long time that they will not be game changers, like let's say F-16s will not be game changers. And not just F-16s, but no matter what kind of planes NATO will send to Kyiv regime, if they will send any at all. F-16s, F-18s, F-15s, I don't know, you name it, man. Even if F-35s will be given to Kyiv regime, which is totally impossible, but, you know, they will change nothing. They will become a good practice for Russian fighter jets and Russian air defense systems, and that's it, really. And I guess, if not politicians in the Western world, at least some generals, some high-ranking military officials probably do understand that this is truly the case. So at some point, Business Insider and many other Western media outlets will endorse some more disappointments when it comes to Western equipments in Ukraine. And several news about de-escalation in the Middle East, current de-escalation that we are observing. RIA Novosti reporting that Hamas released Israeli who had Russian citizenship, and well, they did write a statement about it on their Telegram channel, and they said that they are releasing this Israeli person who is a Russian citizen also, due to their gratitude towards Moscow's position and Moscow's support for Palestinian people. So there we go. Russian politicians, Russian take on and constant calls for de-escalation and ceasefire and so on did play its good role, at least in this case. And one Israeli who is also Russian citizen was freed. And also, by the way, tomorrow I believe there will be another exchange between Israeli and Palestinian sides, exchange of detainees. RIA Novosti is reporting also that White House did not exclude possibility that US will stop, not to stop, but let me translate, ограничить. How you say this, man? So White House are not excluding possibility that there will be some restrictions on arms supplies to Israel. This was said by Jake Sullivan, advisor of Biden in national security matters, and he did said this on answering the question about recent statement of Biden, who said that such a possibility is on the table, that US will introduce some restrictions to send weapons to Israel. But yet again, I don't think this is the truth, by the way. I guess Biden's administration now playing with their leftist crowd, because we did see that Democratic Party and their supporters are kind of divided. Elites of Democratic Party are all in support of Israel and Netanyahu and their actions. When just ordinary electorate and I guess middle level management in Democratic Party are lying towards supporting Palestinian cause, and this division definitely makes nervous, I guess, White House, and they are now making this kind of statements that they may restrict deliveries of some weapons to Israel. This is false, but this is not true. They are just playing around to please this pro-Palestinian crowd among democratic voters. That's what it is. That's my understanding, at least. They will send whatever weapons Israel or Netanyahu's government will demand. Man, I have, I will never even question this, That's how influential Israeli lobby is. I mean, we have to admit that we have to give them what they, achieve, really. And this is achievement, to have such a powerful lobby. I mean, this is, wow, something truly historical. This is something big, man. I don't think any community ever had such a powerful lobby as Israel does, which is definitely achievement on its own, like it or not, but it is what it is. After all, remember, dear friends, what Macron did like a few weeks ago, when one day he was kind of slightly critical of actions of Netanyahu and his government, and after 2 days, once Netanyahu and other officials from Israel did criticize Macron, and I guess some shadow forces began working, Macron did call Herzog, president of Israel, and began to explain himself what he meant and what. And I mean, that was embarrassing for France, man, what Macron did. But Macron himself is embarrassment for France. So what you're gonna expect from that kind of individual? And this is it, by the way, for a short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield and the Middle East. Now, if there is any interest, I can, I can try to answer to some questions. Let me check donation alert and mail. I remind you, dear friends, that if you want to ask question or comment, and I want to make sure that I see it, I'm constantly checking donation alerts and buy me coffee. So we have a comment here on donation alerts. Muhammad, thank you very much for your support. And question is, after Russia finishes the SMO in Ukraine, does Russia expect an insurgency in Ukraine? Will the West support an insurgency against Russia? Will Poland and Baltic become more or less anti-Russian? Well, that's a great question. I believe there will be some insurgency in Russian-controlled territory of Ukraine, for sure. It is already, by the way. I mean, some Russian FSB and Russian security forces are constantly working to neutralize agents of Ukraine's secret services. It's a daily work. So some level of insurgency exists even now. And it will exist, of course, when special military operation will end and Russian side will establish control over the significantly more territories of current Ukraine, this failed state. But I believe Poland and Romania, Hungary will also be forced to deal with the insurgency, because I remind you, dear friends, that Western Ukraine is a hotspot and a birthplace, let's say, of Ukrainian neo-Nazi ideology. And it always was a stronghold for Ukrainian neo-Nazis, for Bandera, Banderites, Shukhevich, and just all of them. When Western states or Western neighbors of Ukraine will establish control over these Western regions, they will definitely be forced to deal with the Ukrainian neo-Nazis and insurgency, maybe even in much bigger scale than Russia on the rest of the territory of Ukraine, because I remind you, dear friends, that central and southern eastern parts of Ukraine mainly were Russian speakers, and still are Russian speakers, by the way. Nowadays they may be afraid to talk Russian when they are going out from home, but I believe vast majority of citizens of Ukraine outside of Western regions are still speak Russian, by the way, at least at home. Even Zelensky, dear friends, he is a Russian speaker. He is a Russian speaker. He struggles to talk in Ukrainian. And you can clearly see it, isn't it? So this is definitely a topic, but I believe Poland, Hungary, Romania, maybe Slovakia, and NATO basically of Ukraine, whilst they will establish control over those areas. So when it comes to support of West of insurgency against Russia, that's a possibility, but I don't think so. Some rogue elements in secret services of some Western states may conduct some shadow operation in aiding of insurgent elements, but mainly they will be busy with insurgency in the Western Ukraine. So maybe some rogue elements will support insurgency against Russia, but it would not be institutional policy, as I understand. Once Moscow, Washington, London, Brussels, Warsaw, Budapest, Bucharest will reach agreement, let's mention Berlin also and Paris. Once they will reach agreement, they will hold on to it. I believe, not to make sure that there will be no further escalation between the sides. And when it comes to Poland and Baltic states becoming more or less anti-Russian, they are extremely anti-Russian already. I mean, how? I don't even know if there is any further way to go when it comes to Russophobia of Poland and Baltic states. They hate Russians. They just simply hate Russians, man. Unfortunately, it's not just the elites of this so-called elites or ruling class of these states, but unfortunately, many citizens in Baltics and in Poland are also under this influence of Russophobia propaganda, anti-Russian propaganda, and you may find many ordinary citizens in these countries that hate Russia. And if you ask why, I don't know, they will go to history, by the way. They always go to history because they did this and did this, that. And can you name two neighboring countries that never had any difficult relationships? There is none. There is no such two states. Even US and Canada, by the way, had some difficulties. And these countries are only like a few hundred years old. Isn't it? But still, by the way, I mean, they are two Russophobes, they hate us, they hate Russian language, Russians just... And when it comes to possibility of improving relationships between Russia and Poland, Russia and Baltic states, I don't see that such possibility also. Exactly because this extreme Russophobia in these states, not just among ruling class, but also, unfortunately, among population there, among ordinary citizens. And significant number, I'm not talking about 1 or 2% that are extremely Russophobes, I'm talking about majority of societies in Poland, and Baltic states. Majority hates everything Russian and all Russians. And I mean, our friends from Poland in our community can confirm basically this, because they live in Poland, they know what's going on. And when I was living in UK, by the way, long time ago, I met many Polish people, and they never hide really their anger towards Russia and Russians, even though Russia and Russians never did anything bad to them personally. But yet again, it's always history, you know. They always justify this hatred with history, you know, what they did this 100 years ago and they did that 200 years. After all, by the way, Poland burned down Moscow at once. And what? Russians now hate Polish people forever, or what? No, man. You're not gonna find too many xenophobes here in Russia that hate Polish people. No. As I said, man, you're not gonna find two neighboring countries that had no bad blood, let's say. But history is necessary to know, but we cannot be hostages of history. We have to move forward. And that's why knowing history is good, that it does allow us to not make similar mistakes. So if Russia and Poland wants to improve relationships, they should not continue in this path of confrontation. They should change something. And I don't think Moscow has issues with it. It's you know, it's on Warsaw, really. If they want to improve relationships with Russia, Moscow for it. And always was, I believe. And Ruski Brat, thank you very much. Спасибо вам огромное. Keep up the great work, my friend. Thank you very much for your donation. So I did check here also, isn't it? So dear friends, what you think? Let's continue with some Q&A and for, I don't know, 10-15 minutes and end this live stream. What do you think? How long is this live stream already? It's 72 minutes, so live stream is quite long already. Let me check if there is any questions. And yet again, dear friends, I believe this segment of Sunday live stream is good for our community, because we can just have a talk, informal talk about really just about anything, not necessarily about some political stuff. You know, you can ask me about weather, by the way, and I will answer. It's cold. It's winter here already, so. Let's continue. Question. How does US citizens go to Russia? Thanks. Controlled demolition, asking question. I believe it's not going to be difficult, really. You have to contact Russian embassy and then they will explain. And dear friends, also, it's several months now that Russia is issuing visas by internet applications, if I'm not mistaken. So if you go on website of Russian diplomatic Russian embassy in US, there will probably be some section when you can apply for a visa. And it's significantly easier now to receive Russian visa than it was, let's say, years ago. And maybe there is a Russian consulate in your town in US. So if so, you can apply for a visa in consulate also. But you should always remember that because of the Western sanctions, your Visa cards and MasterCards will not work in Russia. So that's a big issue, really. That's a big issue. You need to ask. I guess you can have some consultation in embassy with embassy staff, and they will probably give you some additional information how you can deal with this issue of Visa and MasterCard not working in Russia. Because tourists are traveling in Russia, so there are some ways to avoid these Western sanctions. But first step is, of course, to check website of Russian embassy, and then you can apply for a visa through internet, or you can go to embassy or consulate, and no, it's easy. It's not really difficult stuff. Questions. So, why are Russian drivers so reckless when driving, and why is road rage such an epidemic in Russia? Oh, I don't know, dear friends. The question is from Seymour. I don't have a car. I used to have a car. I used to be a driver, but not for. But that was a long time ago. I don't have a car, and I don't even know if road rage is a big thing in Russia, because I just don't know. I travel with on metro, on train, or on bus. I guess it's a thing, road rage, but it's stuff everywhere. I don't think Russians are more reckless than some drivers from other countries. I don't know, really. I don't know. At least people are not shooting each other because they don't have guns. You know, when I see some videos on internet, sometimes when you open YouTube, there's some videos are popping up, and sometimes you're gonna see some road rage when people are taking up guns and began shooting each other, man. At least that kind of stuff is not happening in Russia. But yet again, I'm not driver, so I never been in road rage in my life, even when I had a car and I was driving. That was in Georgia, by the way. In Russia, I never had a car, so sorry that I just have no knowledge to answer your question. Questions, dear friends. If you can, please write in capital letters if you have a question, so that I can see a little easier. So Arturo Sanchez is asking why the UK hates so much the Russian people. Are there historical reasons? That's quite a question. That's a really interesting question, because unfortunately, elites of UK and Russia, even during the czars, by the way, or emperors, even at the times, relationships was not really good. I mean, there was some decades maybe when St. Petersburg, let's say, and London were communicating in normal level, but usually not. And I don't know why is bad blood between two sides, man. I am talking about elites, by the way. Of course, we are not talking about ordinary people. We are all the same. I mean, why on earth I have to have any bad feelings towards anybody in this world, in any country? No way. But when it comes to ruling class, even though, by the way, last Russian emperor, he was a relative, I believe, of a British royal family, British royals, and they all are relatives, isn't it? Those royal families, one way or another. But well, I don't know. Historically, I mean, UK was always acting against Russia. There was several exceptions, by the way. Okay, when Napoleon Wars erupt, then Russia and England were allies for some time, and during the First World War, Russia and UK were allies, and during the Second World War also. But usually sides are on different stands. Sides are hostile. UK is hostile, really. And well, maybe because they want control over Russia. That's simple stuff. That's gonna be a reason, really. They just want to dominate in all places of the world, and they did try to dominate over the Russian. I remind you, dear friends, that during the civil war in Russia, after the revolution, in the beginning of in the first half of 20th century, UK and even US, by the way, even US did send their troops to fight Bolsheviks. So they were actively involved in civil war in Russia. And of course, everybody informed about Crimean War, in which UK was actively involved, and basically they were forced to retreat, to flee. So, yes, I don't know. There's some bad blood between the leadership of Russia and UK, historically. Although in critical times, in very critical times, as I said, during the Napoleonic Wars, during the First World War and during the Second World War, Russia and Britain were on the same side. Thanks God, people are not hate each other, man. That's the main thing. As long as we are not seeing each other as enemies, I mean, we have some chance to deal with these crazy elites. But if we began hating each other, really, that's when we lost finally, and that's when these so-called elites won. Because what they want is, divide and conquer. That's their policies. That's the policies of UK, by the way, forever. Divide and conquer, and not just UK, man. All empires. Question... Sakartvelo Tsheldarkiani, Georgian nickname. Question, Levan, who is going to pay and rebuild Gaza? Will China be able to rebuild Gaza if Saudis or Arab states pay? Can Russia set up a Navy base in Gaza for security? No. Answering the last part of the question, theoretically, anything is possible, but practically, I don't see even slight chance that Russia will ever establish any military base in the Gaza. It's not happening. Russia will not conduct hostile steps, openly hostile steps towards Israel, and will not escalate with Israel. Russia will try always to, by diplomatic means to resolve issues, but military base there, it's a step too far, I will say. When it comes to rebuilding Gaza, dear friends, I'm afraid I have to remain on my initial reading of big picture when this escalation began between Israel and Palestine, and because of it, I think after ceasefire, this temporary ceasefire will end, Israeli side will continue, Netanyahu's government will continue its military operations, and I guess the final goal or main goal in this case is to force all Palestinian residents out of Gaza. If they will succeed, then it will be Israel who will integrate Gaza Strip into Israel, and they will rebuild that place. But if world community will play its role to force sides to conduct some peace talks and stop hostilities, in that case, I guess UN, international organizations, and world community will support Palestinians to rebuild Gaza. It's not just Middle Eastern countries, by the way. I'm quite sure worldwide every country will try to help with at least with something. And China, when it comes to China, by the way, it's the same story as Russia. I don't think China will step into Gaza Strip or in that region. No, China has great relationships with Saudi Arabia, with Iran, with the United Arab Emirates. China has military base in Djibouti, which is a military base for several other countries also, by the way, including US. That's uniqueness of Djibouti. And there was some talks that Russia may also establish military base there. I don't know, let's see. On the Red Sea, by the way. Well, yet again, let's hope world community will influence this situation and there will be no further escalation. And if that's the case, then all the countries worldwide who can will support Palestinian people. Questions. Ruth, a veteran of our community, by the way, Ruth Greening, asking Levan, can you make contact with the Moscow Hawk, Icelandic journalist in Moscow? I don't know really. I don't know. I can try. But yet again, dear friends, if you remember, when I began this segment of interviews and we had such a great beginning, great start. Alex Christoforou and Alexandre Mercouris, hosts of Duran Show, participate in the live stream, in the first live stream in this segment. And I had high hopes that this segment will fly, a segment of interviews, but it did not happen this way. At some point, I was so disappointed that I cannot contact experts that because I had no contacts, that I decided to just stop this segment entirely. But then thanks to members of our community, dear friends, I had the opportunity to talk to Matt Everett and to invite him on live stream, and I'm grateful that he did find time to participate in the live stream. And now I will take a step at a time, one step at a time, when it comes to contacting people, because I don't know, man. Maybe our community is just too small, and the people are not that keen really to participate in these programs. But well, Moscow Hawk, I will remember something. I may be familiar with this name, Moscow Hawk, but I'm not quite sure. I will check after the stream. Eugenius BC Mumba is asking, hi Levan, have some Ukrainian downed MiG-29 pilots been captured? Probably yes, although if plane did come under fire of air defense missile from air defense systems, or even air-to-air missiles, chances that pilots will manage to catapult are quite small. It's only in movies, by the way, that it's so easy. They have so much time to react and eject and so on. In reality, I'm afraid pilots have very little chance to survive if their plane are hit. But probably there were some pilots who managed to eject from the plane, and I guess some of them probably end up in Russian captivity. Although I remind you, dear friends, that usually Ukrainian planes, MiG-29s, Su-27s, or Su-25s, Su-24s, for example, they are operating, or they are trying at least to operate from deep inside territory that are controlled by Kyiv regime. So whenever to stay as far away from Russian air defense systems and range of Russian fighter jets as possible, and when they are hit by Russian missile, usually if they manage to eject, they are landing on the territory that is controlled by Kyiv regime. That's the usual stuff, I guess, and therefore I believe majority of Ukrainian pilots who ejected successfully probably landed on the territory that was controlled by Kyiv regime. Only exception can be probably Su-25s, because Su-25s are attack planes and they are they are forced basically to reach front lines, and pilots of Su-29 are quite likely that in case of ejection will land on a territory that is under control of Russian side. I hope I did answer to the question. Questions. So Maurizio Castro is asking, what do you think about Odessa? Will Russia return this part to the motherland? Of course, Maurizio, thank you for the question. I'm 100% sure, by the way, that at least entire southern and eastern parts of Ukraine, from Kharkov region to Odessa region, will become under full Russian control after this conflict will end. I have no doubts about it. And dear friends, I will also note here that one of the reasons why Russian side is not conducting large-scale offensive operations deep inside territories that are still controlled by Kyiv regime, including in Nikolaev, Odessa direction or Kharkov direction, at least for now, is that Russian side is trying to minimize battle capabilities of Ukrainian armed forces on current line of contact, so that when Russian large-scale offensive operations began, casualty numbers will be as low as possible and destruction on the ground will be also as minimal as possible. Because we can all Google and see what happened to, let's say, Bakhmut after intense fighting in and around this city. There is no building that was not damaged there. And Moscow don't really want this type of stuff to happen, because it's a Russian side that will rebuild everything that was destroyed. But when it comes to questions, yes, I'm 100% sure that Odessa, being a Russian Jewish city, will return to Mother Russia. Undoubtedly. It's only a matter of time, by the way. And dear friends, if you ask me, I will tell you that I will give 99% that Kyiv, which called in Russia mother of all Russian cities, will also directly or indirectly become under Russian control. I will give for that 99% once this conflict will end. But let's see, let's see. No one can see future, isn't it? We can only base our judgment on information that we have from open sources, and then work around this information to and try to have a better understanding what's going on. No one can see future. So Seymour is asking, due to SMO in Ukraine, do you think the Russian Federation will replace the men lost with the migrants in the next 5 years? Well, dear friends, unfortunately, there is quite a big number of casualties, of course, on the front line. But since the beginning of special military operation, dear friends, maybe not many people do pay attention to this topic, but it's 5 million Ukrainian citizens in Russia now as refugees, and many of them many of them probably will make decision to stay in Russia. Also, by the way, these new regions, Kherson, Zaporozhye, DPR and LPR, they have few million residents also that already took Russian passports, by the way. They become Russian citizens after referendum, which was accepted by Russian side, and these republics become part of Russia, and citizens there become part of Russia. So when it comes to demographic situation, in Russia now are significantly more citizens than before special military operation, and significantly more people. But still, demographic situation in Russia is quite difficult, because just imagine scale of Russia. Just imagine scale of Russia. It's biggest country in the world, and they are east to Ural Mountains, by the way. Territories are very scarcely populated, and the Russian government does its best, I guess, to stimulate growth of population in Russia, and there are many programs that are supporting families, young families, families with kids, first kid, for second kid, for third kid. There are many programs in Russia, by the way, that encourages families to be created and families to have more and more kids. So government works on this topic, but still Russian economy is almost overheating. Unemployment rate is very low, historically low, and therefore, not because of special military operation, but because of situation in economy, Russia will probably how should I say, will minimize demands, or make it easier, let's say, for foreigners to come in Russia for work, because economy needs more workers. It was a case like 5 years ago, it was case 10 years ago, and it is case now. And as economy continues to grow, demand for manpower in economy will only increase. So I will not say that this current deficit of workers on Russian market has direct roots into special military operation. No, because I was listening just recently on one of the channels, by the way, Western channels, data that according to BBC studies, even BBC, by the way, you cannot call them pro-Russian, isn't it? So according to them, Russian side lost about 35,000 military personnel. So, it's a huge number. Of course, it's a huge number, by the way, undoubtedly. But, of course, demographic situation cannot be influenced by this number of casualties. It's just different scales entirely. And this BBC's data is if I'm not mistaken, was about Russian militaries. It did not include, as I understand, the casualties on the part of Wagner PMC. I'm gonna check that data from BBC. Let's see on what their assessments are based on. But anyway, let's continue. I don't know, maybe in the Western media are reporting some unbelievable numbers that Russian side lost million soldiers, 2 million soldiers, 10 million soldiers, but this is not true, by the way. This is just not the true. Unfortunately, 35,000 people among casualties on part of Russian militaries, and about same number probably on part of Wagner. There's still huge number, isn't it? Still huge number, but when it comes to demographic situation and casualties on the front line, I mean, this is very different scales really. And questions. So Philippa C is asking question: where do all the refugees live? How does Russia look after them? Well, refugees, they are free to go anywhere really. Once they will receive all the paperwork, it's up to them. They don't need any permissions to work. They have a right to work straight away, and it's their decision. For example, here, by the way, in Dmitrov, best friend of my younger daughter is from Ukraine, and her family is from Ukraine. So they are free to live whenever they want. There is no kind of no limits. I mean, no one will tell them, you know what, you have to stay here and don't go anywhere. No. And when it comes to support, by the way, of course, it's humanitarian organizations. Government is helping them with finances, and I guess if they have nowhere to live, government will provide them with living conditions. But yet again, because they have a right to work straight away, and I guess they will choose to, you know, find work and just go on with their lives, not being dependent on anybody's support really. But they are everywhere. They are everywhere. As I just said, dear friends, best friend of my younger daughter from Ukraine, from Artyomovsk area, if I'm not mistaken, which is Bakhmut, by the way. And her family is also from Ukraine, of course. And question, Moonlight Shadow, where they keep all the prisoners of the war they capture? I don't know. I don't know this. I don't know. Probably there are some camps for POWs, some buildings that was maybe even built especially to house POWs. Not maybe, but for sure, because we are talking about tens of thousands of POWs, so you cannot keep these people out in the field in tents, isn't it? Maybe on the front line, close to zero line, there are some prisoners in a tent camps, but once they will be removed from the front line, deep inside DPR, LPR, or rest of the Russia, probably they are in some specially built buildings. Yes, what Rosomak is answering your question. Camps in former schools, mainly on the territory of the former LNR and DNR, so LPR and DPR. Possibly that's also a possibility, of course. So, dear friends, I will, if we had a good conversation, isn't it? So I will end this update now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much once again for finding time and joining conversation, joining the stream. Have a great day. Have a great day. Take care and see you tomorrow.